So the year is 2025 and somehow BlackBerry is back. Yep, it is somehow 2007 all over again, almost 20 years after the original iPhone seemingly banished the QWERTY keyboard phone into the past. If you go on Instagram or TikTok for a few minutes, you'll find one of the many young women who are clamoring for a simpler time, when it's clear that the Polaroid effect has now come into the world of physical keyboards. Like how us millennials went crazy over analog photography 15 years ago, Gen Z are now seeking physical keyboards as nostalgic status symbols, and this movement can be measured by the Bring Back BlackBerry campaign led by none other than Crackberry Kevin that somehow gathered over 500,000 followers. Now if you dig a little bit deeper, however, it seems like that this is a movement of two halves. Firstly, we've got the older people, like myself, who are clamoring for the additional productivity that a physical keyboard allows for, and a lot of the Gen Z supporters are seemingly treating the BlackBerry as just another sort of minimal dumb phone to rid themselves of what they see as smartphone addiction. Just wait until they hear about the term crackberries. Anyway, apart from Steve Jobs, I don't believe that anyone really despises the physical keyboard that much, but as he did describe in his famous 2007 keynote, they do have their intrinsic compromises. If we take a look at this BlackBerry Classic, let's say, the problem is that most people want large displays to watch movies on and stuff. And that's why full touchscreen phones, like what we can imagine this Palm Pre is, and that's why these became more popular. When you've got a virtual keyboard, the keyboard can come up and disappear at any time. Most people don't desire a small screen where the keyboard takes up the other half of the fascia of the phone. Now, of course, you could go down, let's say, the Clicks keyboard route, where we've got a large screen with a keyboard stuck to the bottom of it, but then you have a phone that literally does not fit in a pocket. Now, sliding phones like this Palm Pre over here, and also the T-Mobile G1, these were popular during what I call the hybrid era of the late 2000s, early 2010s, but it does involve a lot of engineering work and does make a phone quite fragile. The amount of broken hinges on T-Mobile G1s and Palm Pres can attest to that. So in 2016, Samsung came out with what is perhaps one of the most genius ideas ever. What if you could have a large display and also have a physical keyboard on the same phone without the additional engineering effort that a sliding design will ensue? Well, enter the Samsung Galaxy S6 Edge Plus keyboard cover case. And oh my god, these are so rare. Samsung somehow made these cases for the S6 Edge Plus, the S7, the S8, Note 5, all the way to Note 8, and somehow I've been trying to get my hands on one of these for quite a few years now, and it's only now that I finally found one. So let's just say that these weren't exactly a success. But I've got one now, so let's see what comes in the package, and ultimately we'll answer the question, is this something that Samsung should bring back to take advantage of this new internet trend? So back when this came out in 2016, this was already seen as quite an antiquated idea. There was a period of time in the early 2010s when most major manufacturers would create two versions of their flagship phones, a standard version with just a touchscreen and also a professional or pro version of that same phone with a slide-out keyboard. Phones like the HTC HD7 and the HD7 Pro, that's the era I'm talking about, and the one that I wish never left. Back then, there was an understanding that a physical keyboard was not just an antiquated piece of technology. Rather, if you were a person who needed to get a lot of typing done on the go, then it was a pretty essential thing to have. The popularity of keyboard accessories for iPads and the lack of dual-screen laptops really attest to that. Every time you want something done, you don't type on the iPad's virtual keyboard, you type on a physical one. However, designing two phones, one with a keyboard and one without it, is a practice that's obviously very expensive. So what Samsung did here was absolutely genius, I would say. So let's have a look at this. So this is the Galaxy S6 Plus Edge, and I do have to apologize here, but I am going to go on a little bit of a tangent. But what happened to phone design in general? This thing is just absolutely beautiful. It's got a stunning OLED 5.7-inch display that waterfalls down to the edges on both sides. It's got a lightweight aluminium chassis. It's got a really clean looking glass back, a tasteful camera module. It's simply beautiful in a way that modern phones aren't. front. I mean, just take a look at my iPhone 16 Pro Max in comparison. It doesn't have the drama of the Samsung. The camera module on the back is simply an eyesore. And despite being titanium, it is over 60 grams heavier, and we can see that it is also fatter. And while I admit the Samsung isn't especially ergonomic, thanks to the curved front display but the very flat back, it's actually more comfortable to hold it in reverse than it is to hold it the right way round. But due to the lightweight build at just 157 grams and 6.9 millimeters in thickness, thanks to the rather small battery by modern standards at 3200 milliamps, this thing is just a delight to hold, even if it is rather large. So the S6 was the first generation of Samsung Galaxy to introduce properly premium materials after the frankly nasty S5 and Note 3, and I feel that it's still a design that holds up very well today. Being a Samsung phone from 2016, however, software updates were a bit of a sore point. As we can see over here, we are stuck on Android 7, and the last security patch was from August 2018. So this thing barely got 2 years worth of security patches, which is just absolutely diabolical in my mind. So it's nice to see that Samsung has made a fair bit of progress since then. And software updates really do matter, as well it does still feel relatively fast despite the absolutely ancient Exynos 7420 processor, which gets a Geekbench single core score of just 242. Web browsing, I found, is actually still relatively possible. But a lot of apps like Microsoft Word, OneNote, and also Impro no longer support Android 7, which should make this phone quite difficult to daily these days. However, I still did find that some apps like Instagram, Facebook, and even some games like Asphalt 8 still work relatively okay. What I did find a little bit surprising is how antiquated Android 7 feels on this thing. The lack of gestures took a little while for me to get used to, especially the lack of a swipe up to bring up the app launcher, and it really shows just how far ahead Palm WebOS was. I mean, this is the final pre-3, and this was already 5 years old by the time the Samsung came out. And the OS feels a lot more current than this particular version of Android. And back to keyboards now. While this virtual keyboard isn't awful, thanks to the ergonomics, it is quite difficult to use one-handed. And I also have to say that you must absolutely turn haptics off, as the vibration motor is absolutely terrible on this thing. Despite that, I do like the fact that there is a number row on the top, and the gentle curve of the screen on the edges actually feels pretty lovely. So let's see how this keyboard case changes things. So to use it, firstly you pop on the back cover like so. It fits on pretty easily, and now it basically just acts like a very lightweight case. On the back of it, it's starting to degrade already, but it's got a similar texture to the Galaxy S5. And now we've got the more exciting second part, which is the actual keyboard, and it's so small, lightweight, and compact. What's quite amazing to me is the fact that this doesn't require any Bluetooth to connect to the phone, and there's no need for a battery either, so there should be no lag. So when you aren't using it, you can just snap it to the back of the phone, and while it does look a little bit unusual, even from the front, it isn't too egregious. And when you want to tie it, you simply just take it off. There's some nice grips on the side, and then you just slam it onto the front. It clicks on, and then the screen resizes by itself. So when the keyboard is on, the screen's roughly 2/3 of the original display size, and we can see that it's still fairly decent. For example, it's still larger than the display that we got on the BlackBerry Classic. However, it does come with some sore points. We can see that the fingerprint reader is now inaccessible, which is quite annoying, but it was broken on this phone anyway, so that doesn't matter. And we also have 3 new physical, this time, navigation buttons. According to my research online, apparently this keyboard works by sending some sort of signal via a wireless chip similar to NFC every time that a key is pressed, rather than sending capacitive signals on the touchscreen like I had originally imagined. But I actually found a glitch earlier where I took the keyboard off very quickly, and remnants of the keyboard did show underneath. So I'm not exactly 100% sure how it works, but either way, it is pretty genius. This is a system that works surprisingly well, especially given how there's no battery, which means that there's no Bluetooth that needs connecting, which is just very simple and elegant. So how does it feel? Well, when I'm typing on this thing, it feels a little bit like I'm typing on one of those bubble fidget toy things. Unfortunately, this is far from one of the best keyboards that I've used. There is almost zero key travel, and there's very little distinction between the keys. And the format is a little bit obtuse as well. It's a little bit unusual if you are used to, let's say, a BlackBerry or a Palm keyboard. It is also a little bit buggy as well. There's a lot of missed letters, but that might just be due to the age of the device. And overall, the experience just isn't a very nice one. Compared to some of the other physical keyboards that I've got around here, it's nowhere near as pleasant as, let's say, a Clicks keyboard for iPhone or for Razer. But the weight distribution is, obviously a lot nicer because this is an actual phone. And if we talk about one of the less popular keyboards, like the Unihertz Titan Slim, even this feels a lot better than the Samsung, despite its very unusual layout. The clickiness actually feels a lot more satisfying and also a lot less hollow. The Samsung has a very odd combination of hard to define keys. There's very little keyboard travel as well, and requires quite a bit of force to engage each key. It's just not very satisfying at all. Now, I don't know if this is a limitation of the technology or if it's just an early attempt at it and the later versions were better, but if you've used a decent QWERTY keyboard in the past, this will definitely disappoint you. However, despite how much I dislike this keyboard, especially when compared to a BlackBerry or a Palm, you know what? I would still absolutely take this over any virtual keyboard. With this, I can easily type with one hand. With some more practice, I'm sure that I can learn to type without looking. And with this, I am more than happy to tackle some longer typing where I would be avoiding it at all costs with a touchscreen keyboard. For anyone wondering as well, for some reason, this doesn't work on emulators as the keys are not recognized by the operating system, so you can't map the keys that the phone can't see. So that was a personal disappointment of mine, as I'm sure that this could play some PlayStation Portable games, or if not some GBA games, but that is something that I think you should know. So in conclusion, is this the best keyboard in the world? No. But is it a very cool solution? You bet. Well, I would love to try the newer versions of this keyboard. From what I've read online, they were not amazing typing experiences either, and they also never gained backlit keys, which would make it quite difficult to type in the dark. Although I do understand that would be rather difficult with this design. So if Samsung continued to make these and improved it and offered it on the S25 or S25 Ultra, I feel like that I could absolutely be a Samsung user, as this sort of solves a lot of the issues of physical keyboards on phones. But alas, they decided to keep with the S Pen, plodding along with that technology. To be fair, I do like it though, but I feel that a physical keyboard accessory would be far more useful for me at least. I'm just imagining this keyboard perhaps on my iPhone 16 Pro Max. I feel like that this would be a far better solution than a Clicks keyboard. I mean, imagine just popping that on the iPhone and typing like that. I think that would be really, really cool. As much as I like the Clicks keyboard, just look at the size of it. It's very bulky, it can barely fit in a pocket, and the weight distribution is absolutely woeful. I feel that the keyboard cover case is just such a fun idea, but Samsung obviously just needed a few of BlackBerry's engineers to actually make it feel good, because I think if we can improve how it feels, it would be an amazing solution for the rising tide of keyboard enthusiasts. So let me know in the comments, would you buy a keyboard cover for your phone if it was available today? Should Samsung bring this back? So if you enjoyed this video and want to see more of me, I would really appreciate a like and subscribe, and comment any questions that you've got about this keyboard. I'm also giving away a couple of the Clicks keyboards for iPhone 16 Pro Max and also Motorola Razr. If you follow me on my account on the Impro app, links are in the description. Just comment which one of these you would like and get back to me before the end of October 2025, and I will be in touch if you win. Otherwise, I hope that you are having an amazing day, and until next time, toodaloo.